This is for all of you who are managers or trainers or team leaders, anybody that has to work with your agents with the new laws. I know it's frightening sometimes thinking about what those people are going to say out in the field. But my concern is that we're not training them properly, so we're not going to get any behavior change. And we're going to be spinning our wheels over and over and over. I heard somebody say it today. I've told them 3 times. Well, here are 3 mistakes we're making when we quote unquote train, and actually it's not even training. But here are the 3 mistakes, and here's what to do about it so that you get a payoff when you're working so hard to help your agents follow the new laws. Number 1 is talking about it. Talking isn't training. Now, talking is disseminating information, and admittedly, we are information specialists, but that's not training. So when we just talk about it, nothing changes, and that's why we get the same questions over and over and over. The second mistake is nothing backing up what we're talking about. Where's the written material? Where are the resources they can go to afterwards? Because we only remember 10% of what we heard 3 days later. So no wonder you're having to tell them over and over and over. And the third problem is no accountability. So here's how to solve those problems and actually train so your training pays off. How do you know? You see a behavior change. So number 1, don't ever just talk about something. Always train. And in this case, what you're going to do is you're always going to have them role play. And the big thing is, how are they going to prove their services, their worth to a buyer? You can't just tell them it's not going to work. Nothing will change. In fact, they'll say, oh, you're so good at that. I could never do that. So number 1, you're never going to just talk at somebody. You're going to put them in a real training where they're going to role play. The second thing is no materials. You've got to have the background materials. If you want them to explain the 20 services they offer for that commission, you have to give them a list that they can customize for that, because they can't remember. Remember, we only remember 10% of what we heard 3 days later. If you want to really get sick, just go to a buyer presentation and hear what's being said. But it's not their fault. We haven't trained them. And the third thing is accountability. That goes back to the role play. Quit talking so much and say, let me hear your buyer presentation. Oh boy. So when we stop talking so much and we start training, which means we put them into a situation where they're going to perform, we have background material for them that they can customize that goes with the training, and we have the accountability of having them practice, which means, by the way, it's not an event, it's a process. If you've taken my instructor development course or Train the Trainer, you know I talk a lot about spaced repetition learning. We don't learn something generally in one fell swoop. The other thing I want to share with you is something that I'm going to put on the screen now, and it's how retention goes up. I heard somebody complaining, well, they keep asking me the same thing. Of course they do, because people only remember 10% of what they heard 3 days later. So look at, if you read it, your retention is 10%. If you hear it, it goes up to 20%. If you see and hear it, it goes to 50%. But if you say as we talk, that's role play, goes up to 70%, and say as we do a thing. So if you're having them role play with a buyer and the buyer's actually asking questions, you're going to get a 90% retention rate. And isn't that what you want? It's not that you tell them, it's, oh, I'm a great trainer, I told them. No, it's what they demonstrate in the field that shows how well you train. So take those 3 tips, go at them, and actually train our agents so they can get the commissions they feel they deserve from buyers.